Hey everybody, I'm Will. I wanted to today show you how you can make radial heat maps in Tableau super easy. So radial heat maps, they aren't really going to be considered best practice, but they actually can get people looking at your work, which is the really important thing. So if 20 of your colleagues are making heat maps and you've gone and made a radial heat map, you're going to stand out from that crowd. That being said, there are some issues with this you might want to know about. First up, people find it much harder to read data when it's plotted at an angle, like in an arc kind of way like this, than if it was, say, on a straight line. You also have issues with this kind of chart where actually data towards the inner of the circle occupies a bit less space than that on the outside of the circle. And lastly, radial heat maps are the most efficient use of space. You see here, there's quite a lot of white space around the edges here. I mean, we can use this to add notes and insights on our works, which can be really helpful. That being said, they're still super nice to look at, and I want to make this much easier to do. So I made a technique which you can all use. So I've used a coding language called R to build out a Shiny app. Shiny is just the name of the software. It's nothing to do with how it looks. But using this application, you will be able to generate a template which you can then add into Tableau to help you build out these radial heat maps very easily. Let's dive straight into this. So a great use of radial heat maps is to show time data, something that builds into that visual metaphor of a circle. So in most cases, we'll have like 12 months in a year, or think about maybe 24 hours in a day, or maybe you want to do 52 weeks in a year. We can do that by updating these different parameters. You'll see this preview of the chart come up, and we'll be able to then download this data. So when you click download, you'll have that immediate download of a CSV file for you. If you open that up. So what this has done is given you a CSV file which will plot all the coordinates you need to build out this type of chart in Tableau very easily. So we've been able to build out this radial, which is nice, but we actually want to put some data onto it and get that into Tableau. So I'm going to walk you through a quick demo of this now. So for this demo, I've gone back to Viz Basics. This is a Tableau community project. Lots of great data sets here, very accessible, very easy to use, quite simple work. I've gone down here to week 20, which is change over time. It will then link you to data.world, which is a data repository where you can download this data. So you give it a bit of a description about the data itself. So this data set's very simple. What this data is saying that every year in these years, in say 1960, they surveyed a group of Americans to say which month was their favorite, and 1% said February, 2% said January. What I'm going to do is I'm going to plot those months around the edge of those different segments around my radial, and have my little rings being the different survey years going out. And then the percent will be that color. Okay, so I've got my data set that I want to use. I've now got to go and create a radial template for this. So we know in this case, I'm going to need 3 different years and 12 different months. So if I come to this template, I'm going to need to change this number of rings to 3. I'm going to change number of segments to 12 for my different months. It looks a bit small, the data, so I'm going to increase the width of my rings up from 0.25 up to 1. I feel that looks a bit better. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and download that data. Okay, so I've got both of these files saved locally now. I'm going to open up Tableau and then start putting this data together. So in a new Tableau workbook, I'm going to go connect to data. Okay, I'm going to go text file because these are CSVs. Okay, so I found my America's favorite month. I'm going to open that, and we can see that this data has come through. So I can build this out. Okay, so very quickly I can build out a heat map. That's no problem, but I want to get them in that radial format. So to join this data to my radial heat map template, I'm going to need to think of a way that I'm going to increment these different values. So for example, I've got data here for the different months, I need that in a number format. And similarly for the year, it's in a number, but I need it going from 1 to 3 in incrementing order. So in Tableau, what I can do is I can change this month here to a date format. So I can change this to a date. From that, I can go in, create calculate a field called date. I can use date part and call that month. You'll see that Tableau is now converting this to the number of the month, which will work in terms of matching to my segments. In terms of the survey year, I only know there's 3 of them, so I can do a quick case statement to fix this. So this case statement is taking the survey year, then saying when it's the first one, call it 1, then second, call it 2, then 3. And so now I have something that looks quite similar to the actual data we've got on the template. So now I can go and add that in. So we go up here and edit data source. I have that radial heat map saved in the same folder. So I drag that in, and then I'm going to get some options on how they want me to match the data. So if I want to match by the different rings, and then I'm going to go and find, it only deals with the source data, so I'm going to have to go and redo those calculations. So I can go and do the same. Okay, so I've done that calculation here. If I click OK, now I'm going to add in the one for the segment. So I go for segment, and then that was working on the different months. But that's not going to work. There's no type mismatch going on here, so I'm going to edit that calculation. So before it was date part as month, on this as a month, as a date field. Okay. So now if we come back to the sheet, so we should now have all this radial heat map data come in for us. And now we can go and check that this actually works. Yeah, and we can see that data is mapping across nicely. Now the benefit of this template is it makes it super easy to draw the radial. So if I go and double click on X, double click on Y, got a point here, go and change these to dimensions. Okay, so you can see all the different points here, but there's more still to come. So if I go and take block ID, put that on detail, that's done that. What I also need to do is change this to a polygon, and it gets a little bit mad. What I then want to do is put path on path, and it looks pretty cool. But if we change this to a dimension, then you can see these different segments. We can also bring in detail on segment and ring as well, just to double check that we've got the right segment and rings. So you can see here, this is our first ring and our first segment, then it increments around this way, around clockwise, and then onto the second ring. Okay. So now the benefit of this is I've got this template laid out. I can now go and bring in that other percent. And now I've got same layout as before. Now just laid out as in a radial format. So now I can go and put this on a dashboard to then use. So I go on dashboard, I can drag this in here. What I want to do is just float this for now. In this case, you want to make it look in a square shape. So I get rid of the title. I want to do a fixed size, do it, say 700 by 700 for now. I then can get rid of these axes, they're not really helping in any way. There's that, so that's in square. I can then come into format. So generally you can just go here and get rid of the grid lines, or you can come up here and go to, in this case, format workbook, and you can get rid of all the grid lines here. You then need to look for more and get rid of the 0 lines, and everything's gone. Okay, so we've got our radial done. I'm just going to tidy this up a bit. Okay, so here I've just added some bit of text labels here to go and help my users understand what's going on. I can also do a bit on formatting tooltips, which would really help. So there you go, something that was very complicated now only takes a few minutes. Using the help of this template, download the data for you, and this little guide I've put together. I also have a version of this template on my Tableau public profile. This you can freely download, have a look how I've put it together. You can also, this will also link you back to all that work before. You can find links to all this documentation in the description. Hope you enjoy making great radial heat maps in the future, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.